Welcome back from that break. We are today discussing about the impact of political decisions on infrastructural development in Uganda. Before we went for the break, Henry was tackling issues concerning how some of these constructors end up getting some of these contracts, and there was an element of quid pro quo in it. So I want Henry to elaborate more on that because I know you've traversed the country and you've seen the kind of roads that have been constructed and their lifespan is not so long. You find the road from, for example, Pakwach to Arua, which you would expect would take a lifespan of maybe 40 years, but in a period of like 10 years, you go back and find that the road is very vague, and you ask yourself, did we borrow to construct such roads, or there's somewhere where some people are tending to just do things because maybe they know the people in power and maybe they finance some of the activities in terms of campaigns. Should we say we should blame the shoddy work on quid pro quo contracting?
Thank you, Abel. Good question again. You see, one of the painful things is for us to borrow money from the Chinese at very commercial rates of paying back, and get to heap this burden on the very Ugandans that must pay taxes and pay back these loans, okay, with pain and over generations. And then you construct a road that presumably should have been in place for 15, 20 years. But after 10 years or 8, this road is done. I remember if you that road from Kona Kamdini to Lira, for example, that road. And the reason I'm saying that road is because I know my colleagues from Lango sub-region are planning to do a demonstration of a nude demonstration on the offices of the World Bank, because that road is outrageous. Now that road took a long time to construct. I think the company that won that tender is the one that had previously worked on Iganga Tirinyi Mbale Road. So that company is awarded that road. It took for them forever. There were demonstrations by citizens over the delay in completing that road. But hardly 10 years after it was constructed, the road broke down. Today it is near to impassable. People have lost lives on that road. You see, but we have not finished paying back that debt. And therefore, it's annoying. So the thing is, why are we in a situation we are in today? Which is why I pointed out the issue of corruption, because this money gets to be eaten, and you wonder why the people that have responsibility to follow up on this money, the people that are supposed to ensure that the road is of the quality that it's supposed to have, get to be compromised. It's because they have eaten, and because this money sometimes has been eaten by people that are as big as that are larger than life. People that are larger than life, and I suspect that some of this money ends up also financing politics. So if this money from the infrastructure, this money comes back and finances politics, because we have heard quite often that somebody says that, look, leave my Chinese alone. So you want, I know, for example, in Kampala, the Rubiji Road, that Rubiji Road was given to, no, not Rubiji Road, the wetland, what is it called? The river, Rubiji. They are supposed to do some clearance on there to make sure that they stop the flooding that has been happening. The Chinese company that was constructed, has failed until now to deliver the job on time. I know that the Chinese companies that worked on the Acacia Road were dilly-dallying And I remember so vividly that the executive director of Kampala Capital City Authority had to go and have nasty exchanges with these companies. So you see companies that awarded roads, but these companies are not excuse me, are not competent enough to deliver the quality that we need, and they continue to get contracts. And you ask yourself, who is taking these decisions? Is the taking of these decisions informed by politics, or is it informed by economics? And therefore, so at the end of the day, the loser is us, the Ugandans. The projects are done, delivered, they are socially done. The monitoring, the supervision on the ground is so poor. You get to see a road such as the expressway. They have inserted, for example, what is supposed to be reflectors, metallic reflectors onto the road, but these things don't even reflect anything. It means therefore they put there things that look like reflectors. You know, these metallic things they put in the road. I have also seen them on the bypass. Who is this supervisor, government supervisor, who is allowing shoddy things to be put on the road? Why are they not raising it? There is a simple answer. They've been compromised. Compromised with what? The corruption we're talking about. So corruption has eaten into the very fabric of our supervisory function, and is the reason that we find ourselves in a situation where we have borrowed money to construct an infrastructure project, whether it is transport infrastructure, whether it is electricity infrastructure, which is supposed to have lasted for 20 years. It gets broken down after less than 10 years, and then we have to borrow again before we finish. We even finish paying back the loan that did the other one. We have to borrow again. We find ourselves in a vicious cycle of borrowing, and we bury ourselves into a hole from which we may not get ourselves out over the next 50 years. So the situation is really horrible and deplorable. Back to you, Abel.
Thank you. I don't know whether Pesca is on, but I wanted you to carry on from Henry's submission. We've just had him discuss about issues of corruption, and we have seen the Auditor General also has highlighted the issues of corruption, which are posed by delay in the procurement processes and also some other individuals just swindle this money. From you reports from Parliament, we do know that most of the times, these reports end up some of the committees in Parliament scrutinize more and maybe call for these people to be held accountable for where this money went. How have some of these committees helped in terms of when the Attorney General, when the Auditor General says that we have lost, Uganda loses billions of money because of the delays and corruption in the infrastructure sector? Do they take action in terms of maybe following up and also investigating more and helping in terms of maybe calling these people to account more and ask where this money has gone? Or they also, because we know some of the politicians in Uganda say that they sit in the same dining table. So whoever is got because of corruption, if you don't speak to their language, then you are the one who will be taken in. But if you speak their language, they'll let you go free. What have they done so far?
I think one of the reports that helped save us as a country was the one the Auditor General wrote on deemed energy. Deemed energy is the technical word for unconsumed power. And when he was tabling his report in February 2020, he noted that Uganda has unused power to a tune of 110 billion. It's just there lying idle. And you remember that was the same time government had brought a proposal to construct another electric hydro dam on Maction Falls. So you remember they debated because we were lucky at the time because the then speaker Kadaga was someone who was kind of passionate about environment, and she put up a spirited fight, then ordered the Committee of Natural Resources to investigate. And the committee came up and said, we are not agreeing to this, to the construction of the dam. And they cited the report from the Auditor General of the Deemed Energy. And because when you look at even we have not yet started using the power at Karuma. We have not started using the power at Isimba because the construction dates keep on shifting. They come and tell you we are at 98 this percent, and so although we know that the powers that be at plot one usually have a big control on what happens, and so, but that is one of one of the few moments that I've seen that the country has been saved by Parliament, because if the committee chairperson is under tight pressure to ensure that this dam is constructed, but then the committee kind of I think we have to give them credit for such a report that's standing firm and say no, we cannot construct another dam, yet we have failed to consume the already energy that we have. And one of the recommendations that the Auditor General made is for the construction of the transmission lines, because to enable what to enable more Ugandans get access to the electricity. And when you look at yesterday, the Ministry of Energy was asking for money to buy out the remaining contract on Umeme, but the MPs have also rejected that it's the amount was about 74 billion, something like that. I'm not so certain of the figure, but that is the information coming up, because electricity is also infrastructure. And it's one of the things that when you look at UNRA is taking about 5 trillion, the roads and construction, infrastructure is taking 5 trillion, energy I think they have about 2 trillion in the next budget. So they are also they are taking one of the biggest chunks in the budget. So when we are looking at the infrastructure, we tend to put more emphasis on the roads, and we forget the other things like the rail, the power, and yet they are consuming huge chunks of our budget. Now, when you look at the rail, I'm one of those people who use a train every evening, and it's quite fast, but when you look at the information coming from the Uganda Rail of buying wagons at older wagons at a higher price than newer wagons. At the time, I thought I had faith in the rail that it would kind of save us, but now with that information coming up, and there is a plan of them revamping the whole rail system up to Kasese, the north. But if the theft has started on the smaller hammer, of course billions is not, but the revamping is going to take over 1 trillion. So if they're starting with the small billions, you can imagine how much money is going to be wasted in the whole thing. But Henry hinted at the gateway to the sea, the Ginger Highway. I remember when Parliament asked government to explain why the construction of the Ginger Expressway hasn't yet taken place. The argument was they are still negotiating the PPP agreement, and so the MPs who take the eastern route asked that why should you drag in the PPP agreement on our road, yet the other roads government has found money for it. So the debate took the tribal settlements, and I remember Nadala Mafami saying Western Uganda has very good roads, and the only thing that comes from Western Uganda are onions. So and then you remember both the state minister for is it defense now? He was the chairman legal by then. He argued that the potholes are interfering with their marriages. And at that time, he was going through a divorce. So he was talking about the jam on Ginger Highway, why the express. His argument was if the expressway is constructed, probably many marriages will be saved because they are spending so much time in the jam and not fulfilling their responsibility of the conjugal rights in their bedroom. So but the mere fact that government has ignored Ginger Road, because when you look at the repairs, the recent repairs are supposed to stretch from, I think, Spear up to, I don't know whether Mukono or Mabira, but they keep on repairing the road in sections. But you know that road, I don't know, it starts from around Kitgum House, I'm not such Ototal around there, up to the border, Malaba or Tororo. But even the repairs are taking partial repairs. And even when you look at the stretch from Spear up to Mukono, the repairs are also taking time because they're repairing in certain sections. And that's why some people are wondering that what if that the gateway was coming from a certain part of the country, will they be ignoring it like it is being ignored? So the infrastructure development, the debate on the infrastructure development has also now taken a tribal stand now. People now keep on thinking that the West has more. If the road was from the West, probably it would be better. And when you even look at the proportion, the North, the people from Lango region have been complaining about the Camden Road, and now for those people who are now going to Amulata and Dokolo, they are forced to use the ferry. And at one time use the ferry, but do you know what happens at the ferry? Is that there is a time we were forced, on our return, there is a time we were forced to wait for over 3 hours because apparently the LC5 had called, he's saying he was in a meeting and the ferry should not take off until. So we had to wait for him to finalize his meetings. I don't know whether they were the clan meetings or what, but that is what is happening. So one individual is in position to hold a ferry for about 2 or 3 hours. This is something that people up country are going through. But imagine if that was it. Imagine making. So I'm imagining you holding a ferry. If Port Bell had a ferry from Port Bell to Katosi, imagine the wrath you face if you. But the people there when during that instance, they looked like they are used to it, like it's common. And I mean, I was almost going mad with the people who went. And it was later on that we explained that the LC5 had told them, you cannot set off until I arrive. So this whole debate on, so that is what we should know is now the debate has moved from the politicians now to now talking to the tribal sentiments now. And it is partially when you look at the tribal, the anarchy that is underlying the tribal, that is also something that they are going to use actually, yeah, in the near future.
Thank you so much, Priska. Now, as we conclude, because we are running out of our time, I want us to discuss about, the president came out with a directive after seeing whatever is happening through the delays in the construction in the infrastructure sector and also the corruption that is now endemic in that sector. He proposed that the military should now take over most of the constructions in the infrastructure sector because he thinks that the military is more swift and fast in terms of executing whatever they are told to do. What do you think? What do you make of such a decision? will it help really cure the delays and also the corruption that is in the system, or it's just part of militarizing the entire Uganda, because we have seen it start slowly? As you give your conclusive remarks, I will start with you, Henry.
Thank you, Abel. Of course, there is a common adage that if someone is holding a hammer, everything they see looks like a nail, and therefore they will keep using the hammer, even when the hammer is not the most suited tool. I think for the regime, which keeps reminding us about their Bush war days and how they remain behaving like bushmen, they've continued to behave militarily. Of course, this is not to discount the role and the patriotism of the men and women in uniform. They've done a great job. They've done a great job when it came to providing their skills as army doctors when we were attacked, when we were at the peak of COVID-19 pandemic. But you see, to assume that the military, the men and women in uniform come from a different society, I think is to misunderstand things, because these military men come from the same families that have been infested by corruption. These men and women and men in uniform live in the same society as we do, a society that seems to vilify men of integrity and glorifies the thieves. They live in the same society that demands that as a man of a certain age, you must have a house and not one, you must have an apartment building, and you must have a vehicle, and you must have this, and your children must go to this school. They live with these challenges. So I'm not certain that the military is necessarily insulated of the corruption. And therefore, if the reason for going military is because of the desire to deal with corruption, I think that has to be rethought. So in my final parting shot is that Uganda, I think, has to explore many other options as opposed to going down the path of borrowing perpetually from China. We can borrow a lesson from Ethiopia. Ethiopia has been tapping into diaspora bonds. I think that dam, the so-called Renaissance Dam, was constructed in 2011 in Ethiopia, was constructed because of bonds. I think government has to tap more into the remittances of these Ugandans living in diaspora as a way of raising capital. This capital can be used to finance infrastructure at concessional rates. I should stop there, and it's been a pleasure, Abel. Bye.
Thanks so much, Henry. Gerald, your parting shot?
Abel, it has been a very good discussion. Like these big infrastructures have been a window for politicians to rob, to steal public resources. Of course, considering like projects like USMAID project, Uganda support municipal infrastructure projects, like these ones that are in charge of developing markets, these ones of municipal roads, those roll-ups in a market, the district governors, those councillors, they usually distribute themselves, these roll-ups. So we see they usually take advantage of such big projects, to accumulate wealth and resources. As I do, of course, do a parting shot, Ugandans, we need to embrace the local content aspect. If an infrastructure, a big project like like oil project that is coming up, we need to train our local labor. I usually get annoyed to see like an infrastructure like road development. Even a mere casual laborer is coming from a China who is operating, like for instance, a wheel grader or these people who are on the road. So those are the things that annoys me, to find even a local person doesn't have even a necessary skills, to work in such kind of sectors. So the local content bit, by training the Ugandans, the ordinary citizens who are unemployed, to equip them necessary skills that they can work in these very big sectors. I think infrastructure is a very good thing that determines growth and development. We need to look at these very loans, see the funding modality. The politicians, they usually give like these contracts to these contractors to get kickbacks. Of course, like some of these contractors, it is alleged that they support, politicians. They do bankroll them, so that when they win, like when they go occupy like these public offices, they get the tenders. So we shouldn't look at those kickbacks in return. So we should do see the terms and conditions of when we are awarding the contracts, these loans that we are signing, to ensure that when we are paying back, it doesn't cost us much. Otherwise, thank you so much for having me. It has been a great pleasure to be part of your show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Priska, your parting shot. You are muted. Mute yourself.
I think that if UNRWA is to stick to the laid out modalities in the Road Act on the collection of tolls on the Entebbe Expressway, it will go a long way of lifting off the burden of the paying of that loan. Because if you go by the figures that are being projected at the 250 million, it will help us. I just need them to stand firm against, because that we've seen many pleas of doctors, army asking to be exempted. I think anyone who wants to be exempted from paying the toll fee, they should use the old road, the old Entebbe. If you don't have money, don't go to the expressway, use the old road. I think that let just UNRWA stick by the rules in the game. There are three people: the army, the ambulance as the presidential convoy. The rest, whether I saw someone asking if the Kabaka also has to pay the toll fee because the road is in his land. But let UNRWA stick by the rules. I think that will help us in the solving the indebtedness and the road infrastructure. Thank you very much for hosting me again.
Thank you so much, Priska, Henry, and Gerald, for your insights. And we also want to thank our dear viewers from wherever you are. It has been a pleasure having all of you. So today we are coming to one end of the other perspective. But please don't forget to follow us on Facebook at ACFIM. Our YouTube is ACFIM Uganda, and on Twitter is ACFIM UG. Follow us and we'll continue with the discussion. We shall again have another edition next week. So please keep following us and tuned in. We appreciate all your efforts and whatever you're doing, wherever you are. Thank you.